Hello and welcome to this technical special on running rigging. It's something that a lot of people may overlook. It's really important for a sailboat to have good lines. So in this video we're going to look at what you need for a cruising boat. I'm not going to go into the real high-end stuff for racing boats. This is all about cruising boats, which is normally double braid. We're normally talking double braid polyester for pretty much everything, but there are some useful additions to that, some slight changes to that, and of course all double braid is not equal. You want to look at what makes a good line and what's not such a good line.
With that in mind, we recently put in a lot of research at the huge trade show Metz in Amsterdam. All the main suppliers were there. We spent a lot of time with Marlo and talked to all the technical guys at English Braids, who were super helpful.
So let's start by talking about what makes a good double braid line. What do you look for? Well, one of the first things you can look for is the plats, to see how many of them there are, basically. Some of the cheaper lines, it's much more open, it's much more coarse the way it's plaited, so you can see by looking at it how many are there, and it'll be written on the spec. 16 plat is what some of the cheaper ones will have. Makes them more open, more susceptible to chafe, water ingress, that sort of thing. We'll go into that in more detail later, why that's a real problem. So really you want a standard sort of 24 for the good lines. That's what a lot of the companies they'll come in, and even 32 plat for some instances. It might be a really good thing to have, stop dirt and stuff getting in there. So this is a 24 plat line. I mean, the other thing really to look at, there are things that you can't see. You've just got to know that you're working with a good manufacturer, that the source is good, because all polyesters aren't equal in themselves. You need to know that the raw material is good and that their quality checking is good. It sort of depends on how they've twisted it inside as well, how tight that is, for how strong the rope is going to be. So there's a lot of things that sort of depends on. So if you're just trying to buy a cheap no-named brand from China or something, then it's potluck whether you're going to get a good rope or a bad one. And honestly, I mean, even some ropes that you pay a lot of money for, had to get some in the Caribbean, didn't end up being good at all, and really a lot of money as well, which is why I think it's a good idea to do what we're doing now, and to get some spools of line. So let's have a quick look at what we've got here then. We'll start with the bog standard 12mm braid on braid. This is a pre-stretched polyester. I mean, that's the other thing to look out for with a manufacturer, that they do pre-stretch things properly so that it's all to the right grade. I mean, it doesn't mean to say it's not going to have any stretch left in it. It will. It's polyester, but you want that in most applications. If you're using it as a sheet, then it needs to be able to have that little bit of give in every gust, so it's not completely taut. You don't want to be using something that's got no stretch at all. So yeah, this should be completely standard, completely good. It's the 24 braid stuff, because that's standard for the English Braids rope. So yeah, that's going to be a great bit of rope for all the reefing lines and things that I have here. That's what I'm using that for mainly. You can have something that's a little bit softer than that as well. This is the next one I'm going to show, the silver line. So I really like this. It's just so nice in the hand. It's just made in a way that just makes it softer, and it's slightly stronger as well. So yeah, really nice to have as a sheet. I think we'll probably be using these as the sheets for our staysail. The sheets for the Yankee need a bit thicker than that, so this is 16mm that I've got for that. Again, it's just a normal polyester braid on braid, perfect for that application. But we do have something a little bit different for the halyards. This is something called cruising Dyneema. So yeah, English Braids have come up with a really good range of lines for cruising. That's one of the reasons that we went with them in the end. And this one is perfect, I think. And what it means is that you use it for halyards. It's not got that stretch in it. It's not a pure Dyneema. You don't want pure Dyneema on a halyard on a cruising boat, because I mean, it's going to cost you a fortune, because it's got to be quite thick. You don't want the really thin stuff. You can get away with thin stuff because it'll be strong enough, but it's just horrible to handle and to use and to tie off and all those sorts of things. So this, because it's still got the polyester outer core, it's nice to handle. It's still got the sun protection, because that's all in that outer sheath. But inside, it's a Dyneema blend. Pull some out. You can see in here, it's just going to give it more strength and less stretch, which is what you want for a halyard. And just remember, a little bit of stretch in a halyard, if it's a mainsail halyard, if it starts to stretch and it's a little bit loose, then it's moving and that's causing chafe. So that's not a good thing. So it's going to help with things like that as well.
I'm talking mainsail halyards because we have footage of ours breaking. This was in Mallorca, playing under the cliffs.
I was trying to avoid getting too close when this happened.
So it's just the halyard's break.
What?
The halyard's break, that's all. Halyard and mainsail.
Oh my God! I mean, that's all.
Right, just take it out slowly.
Jesus. It sounded like the whole boat was broken. Apologies for the language, it was scary.
It would have been much more scary if it had happened at night offshore in a storm. But mainsail halyards aren't the most common failure in a slab-reefed boat because you get to look at them every time you take the sail down. Roller furlers, however, hide what's going on at the top of the mast. We religiously perform rig checks before every offshore passage. This was in the Bahamas last year, before a 6-day passage to Bermuda.
Okay, so it's gone through the outer and half of the inner. So it's well worth checking that. You don't want that coming loose and dropping the sail down, which would obviously happen in the middle of the night, because that's what happens. So.
As well as the sheath at the top of the mast, most setups have a deflector to stop halyard wrap. This can introduce a chafe spot just here. But it's not just specific chafe areas you need to worry about. If your sailing at home is fairly gentle and in places like the UK or the Pacific Northwest, then you may have a false sense of security. Any spray is normally quickly washed off by the next summer rain shower. But sailing in the tropics is different. If you're passage making, you will get big seas. And that spray will be much more likely to be baked in by the sun than washed off by rain. These salt crystals become like tiny shards of glass, and if they get into the rope, they will start to cut and greatly accelerate the wear of the line. This is another advantage of the cruising Dyneema line, which is very good at expelling water, and one of the reasons a tight 24 plaque cover is good to have.
So I've got my reel of 12mm ready for the roller fairing for the Yankee. If you look at the one that we had in there before, I had to actually splice a little bit onto the end of it because it wasn't long enough. I had some problems with it, so I mean that was okay. I just needed the extra length to pull it at the start to get it on the winch. So I mean this doesn't actually go round through the jammer or anything, but you know, it lasted across the Atlantic like that. But yeah, definitely as well to change it now. The rope itself, this one's is okay. I can use that for other things. It's just a bit short now for this application, so I'll take that out. The one that I'm putting on, it's the same diameter. I mean, you want this to be strong. It's an important rope because, you know, if this went, then the sail could come unfurled and can't get it away without dropping it. So, you know, you don't want that to happen. You don't want this to snap, but there's not a huge amount of strain on it. And you mustn't go too thick because then you have trouble getting it on the drum. You know, it's just going to bind up on the drum. So, so yeah, this is the same as the one I'm taking off it. So that should be fine. Okay, so I've got the old line off. I'll just reel the new one on, so it feeds through all these. I use now these low friction rings on here, which I think is much better. I used to have a block here, broke 2 of them. This, I mean, you know, it's really good. It's not too much of an angle. It goes from there to there when I take it to the winch. And it's worked really well. And these are some Dyneema loops that I made in a really, really quick way. It's just as a finger trap. It's not, there's no Brummel splices, and they're not difficult to do at all. I've done a video about this before. I'll put a link up in the corner if you want to see that. But definitely worth having some Dyneema around to do things like that. I mean, it's just a great way of doing it, I think. So let's feed this through. It goes through the block. So this comes along on all our stanchions. We've got these quite nice little rollers here. You want this to be as easy as possible and as straight as possible. So that's what we're trying to do here. Get the run as straight as possible. I have a little one on there that just keeps it. And then comes through that one. And I've got another little low friction ring just in there. That's just to give it the right lead into the drum. And yes, again, it's got one of my nice little loops on there, which, you know, are really easy to do. So do have a look at that. So yeah, I've got to put this in now and do up the 2 screws that hold it into the drum and then roll it on. I mean, the really important thing about this is that you want a good few rolls on the drum with it in its in position, because it happens so many times. People just put it on, it's fairly loose, and you know, when you just put it on when it's nice and calm like this, but then when the first time you reel it in and you're in 30 knots of wind, it goes so tight you get to the end of the rope and it's not all the way in. So you need a good few turns on there. I'll do about 6 turns.
So the message is, good line will save you money in the long run. While there's light wind, I want to get the staysail on. It's had a new sunstrip and we're going to replace the sheets. The halyard looks okay. If you're buying spools of line, you'll have to do your own prep at the ends. Of course, you can order specific lengths with whatever you want, but this saves some money and is easy to do.
Okay, so once you've burnt the ends, I do want to just whip them as well. It's nice and easy to do, doesn't take long. So I've just got a length of whipping twine, so that's sort of the waxed stuff. I make a little bit of a loop. The loop is just so I can pull the end back through and then just wind it nice and tight. I am going to cinch it up by putting the needle underneath it and pulling it together, so that sort of helps with this. But yeah, let's get it close to the end, and I just go through under all the whipping so it can come out the other side. I've got a proper sailmaker's needle here, so it's nice and flat, so it can, you know, it's got a flat edge, so it can go under. And then once you've done that, you go around again, and you can, I'll show you, when you pull that tight, it does cinch it together. And I'll go through and do the same on the other side.
There are lots of ways to whip ends. You don't have to cinch them together, for instance. I don't always. But do try to bury the ends under the whip and pass the needle through the core several times. This will help it stop unwinding, and going through the core stops the outer slipping.
Both through?
Yeah.
Probably not. I'm going to go with the one below. What I'll do is I'll get a nice Dyneema loop to put through there and put them on the same one, and we can just adjust to where we want it with the Dyneema loop. Okay, so this sheet that I've just taken off the staysail, and if you look at it, it's still serviceable, it's fine, it's getting a bit green and fluffy and yucky in places in the middle. The ends you don't have to worry about too much, because obviously you can chop them short. That's where the bowling went. So it's always a good idea when you get your sheets, get them a little bit longer than you want, so that you can periodically cut that off and just retie bowling on there. Just whip the ends off. But yeah, this would just be a hot spare now. Nice to have the new ones.
Ropes can be renovated in many circumstances. The lines on Fair Eye looked green and horrible when we first bought her. She had been sitting on fresh water. We took them all off and put them in the washing machine. This is them drying before winter storage. But since then, our times in places like Africa have taken their toll. The ropes go hard with salt and dust.
Look, all this dust, and it's just everywhere. The whole
And no
rope.
amount of cleaning seems to bring them back. Going places like Africa, Central America, and here in Cuba, you will find people need rope. In Cuba, we really needed food, so most of our spare lines went to fishermen. So this refit is partly to replace dying ropes and partly to get some spares back.
Okay, well, we've got a lovely still sunny morning for once, so I am going to take the opportunity to drop the Yankee. I want to change the halyard on there, also the sheets. This is Yeah, one of the sheets. I think it happened sometime on a night sail. I think it was a rough night sail that we had in the Caribbean going up to Grand Caymans, and I think it probably wasn't quite loose enough. It's a good idea to always check that your lazy sheet is loose, especially on a cutter, and then it's not sort of across here and rubbing because it's got a little bit of a tension on it. I think that's probably what happened. It was already a bit worn and it just wore through the outer completely, and I basically pulled it back, sewed it back together, because most of the strength is in the inner, and then just put some chafe guard over it. So I mean, that, you know, that got us back across the Atlantic. It was okay, but definitely want to change them now.
I've already measured the new sheets twice, but I'm still testing them against the old lines, and of course adding a bit.
Okay, so I have very carefully cut my 2 lengths of sheets. I have actually tried just doing it as a single one before. I mean, I had it just with an alpine butterfly hitch on it and a soft shackle in. I mean, sort of the idea of that, especially with a cutter, is you don't want the knot to catch up on the inner forestay as it goes through, on the staysail as it goes round. But I mean, these, it's fine. It didn't really make a lot of difference. I don't bother with that. Now, to be honest, I just cut them, have them separately, and go back to the good old-fashioned bowline in the end, and that seems to work for me very well. I mean, the thing with the bowline is to make sure that you do leave enough of a tail on the end of it. Don't make them too short. They never come undone if you give them enough. So yeah, that's there. Let's do the halyard. Okay, so I've got my cruising Dyneema line here and the end of the halyard, so I'm just going to sew it onto the end there. You need to make a good job of that. You really don't want to lose it in the mast while you're doing that. You'll see that the old halyard's got a soft loop at the end of it, a soft eye. I'll do that with the end of this as well. I like that because it just means when the sail is down and you've got all the rope there, I just coil it up and I can hang it on the cleat, so it makes it quite neat to do that. And also, in the winters, you know, sometimes, I mean, when the first winter when we had Fair Isle, we were on fresh water. That was in the Markermere in Holland, and I mean, the lines all go green if you leave them out. So we just stripped everything off, so you can just easily tie a mousing line onto that and just mouse it through. So I think it's worth having these little things on there. So yeah, I'm going to sew it on there now anyway, and put some tape around it and hoist it through.
I've sewn through both lines end to end and covered them in electrical tape. You just need to make sure it's slim enough to get through the sheaves.
Okay, so that's it all the way down. Cool. Okay, halyard's ready. I've whipped the end, but before I go and connect that, I'm just going to show you the old one. So this is the one that you saw in that clip that got all frayed right through the jacket, basically, and that's where it comes up and goes through the mast to stop a wrap happening. You know, it needs to be about 7 degrees that it comes off, so it's, you know, you don't want it to be too much. And it's not on this boat, but it still does get wear there. And what had happened, I'm pretty sure, is that we were on a sort of multi-day passage in the Caribbean. It was quite rough, and you've got a lot of wind and a lot of movement because you bring it up to the tension you want with this sort of rope, and then it's just going to stretch and get a little bit loose. So that's why that Dyneema line is going to be fantastic. This is going to be great for that. It's just not going to creep as much, and you shouldn't have that happening and have that sort of chafe happening. But anyway, with this one, across the Atlantic, I managed to avoid it. Obviously, I've done a good job of going up and just nipping it up and keeping it to the right tension. So it's got no chafe on it, but you can see it is damaged. If you feel it, it's hard. There's some glazing that's gone on just here. And yeah, it's a good way of knowing with a rope. It's a bit like the wire rigging when you're doing your standing rigging. Feel it, you know, you can feel sometimes something going on inside. And this, yeah, you get to that point and it's it's rock hard. It's just, it's got hot, you know, it's just the heat from it there, and it's all melted the inside. So yeah, anyway, replace that. Let's go and put the new one on. Okay, so this is the swivel that it connects to. It's got 2 Dyneema loops that it goes on. It's a really good system, this, the Selden top swivel. I've given it a bit of extra grease. Let's put the halyard on. Okay, so I'm just actually going to tie a halyard hitch on this. You might have seen in the episodes before, I do quite often put a a shackle on the end, so you just splice an eye in this. If you want to see how to splice an eye on something, it is in the episode, so it's probably easier to go to a link. I'll put a link in the corner to one of Herbie's videos. He does it the same way as me from the Rigging Doctor. Yeah, Herbie, you're supposed to send me your book. I haven't got your book yet. He's writing a whole book on rigging, which should be interesting. I've got James's book, Be the Captain. He sent me a copy, which is really good. You should get that. But yeah, for this, because it's, you know, it's on these Dyneema loops, I'll keep metal out of the system completely. It will be strong enough because I've done it this way with the older ropes, and this rope's a lot stronger, so you know, it's not a problem. But you know, obviously it is going to lose some strength. You know, whenever you put a knot in line, it significantly loses some strength at that point. But as I say, it'd be okay with this. So with the halyard hitch, just bring it round, bring it round the back twice, around the whole thing, and then come through the middle and then just hitch it right up. So very simple knot. I'll do a close-up, do it again so you can see it, but yeah, very simple, very easy. You can normally get it undone as well. It gets very tight, but I mean, I actually had to cut that one off. If I persevered, I would have got it off, but I wasn't using it again, so I just cut it off. But yeah, it's a good way of doing it, I think. So I just undo it to show you again in close-up. So very easy. So bring it through, get yourself enough length that you can go around it twice, just around the whole, both of them, up through the middle, like that, and then just cinch it up, just like that. Make sure there's a little bit out the end, but yeah, that'll be fine. Okay, so now I can cut it to length. That's one of the good things about having it on a spool here. You can just install it and then cut it afterwards to how long you want. So I want to give myself a reasonable amount extra, so I have got stuff that I can shorten that if that does get some chafe or whatever on the end there. So yeah, just give myself about that much extra on the end. I'll cut it there. All right, so let's just do the soft loop quickly. And to do that, what you want to do is pull out a bit of the middle, about that much will take off. And then what we're going to do is take the outer, let's put this bit up, so you've got a nice soft bit here. We're just going to basically take that back and in on itself, so just tape the end, and I'm going to feed the fit in just at the point where the core is. Just wiggle it in there, try not to catch anything, that's it. Take it along the edge. Bunch all this up, that makes it easier. Probably easier to do this with a D-splicer than a fid. But you can do it with a fid, so I will. Just bring this around, push it in. Let's fiddle this to a point where we can take it through. That's good. And out the other end. That's good. Pull a few of those out. Away. That's it. Here we go. You can just pull that back in until it's inside quite nicely, and I will now just whip that so looks a bit neater and keeps it in, so it won't pull out. Cool, that'll do. Given the weather, I think we've done pretty well with the running rigging. I have still got a little bit to do with the mainsail, but I'm actually going to wait for better weather for that. In the meantime, sitting here in the doghouse, and I'm just putting a new piece of 3-strand polyester on the snubber hook. I've got 10 meters of it here. I had this in ship stores, but if you do need to do some running rigging, there is an offer that we've got for you.
English Braids have kindly said they will give 15% off to all of our viewers. There's a special landing page on Kildown Marine and you can order from there. You can get reels of lines or just specific lines made to order with the right ends on anything you want. So do have a look through all of that, and if there's anything you need, this is definitely the time to do it. They are in the UK but can deliver worldwide. I mean, obviously there will be a cost associated with that, but yeah, there's 15% off and these are good ropes. We definitely recommend them. And just so you know, there's no kickback for us in this. We don't take money for these sorts of things because we think it turns us into a salesman. I mean, we do recommend English Braids rope because we think they're very good, but it's not a monetary thing. But yeah, good saving for you. So do go for it if you need to get some ropes. In the meantime, I'm going to finish this off. I mean, I do hope actually lots of you use this link, not because we get money out of it, but because I do want to try some of their other things. I've noticed that English Braids do some quite interesting things. Something called E-braid, which is a 32 plait double braid. So I've never used that, so I might try and get hold of some of that for testing. And also, I mean, I'm using this for a snubber. A lot of people use this 3-strand for mooring lines. I don't. I tend to like the double braid more. But I mean, in America especially, you use this sort of stuff, and it's nylon because nylon stretches really well. It will stretch, quite well, but nylon's really good. But the problem with nylon is that it's just not very good in the sun. It soaks up the water and then it gets a bit weak, and just don't really trust it. You don't get too much of it in Europe, but as I say, it's got good properties. And I've seen on the English Braids brochure that they do a sort of speciality thing, which is some dock lines which are double braid, and they are polyester outer and nylon inner. I think that's a really good idea, so I do want to get hold of some of those and try. So I'm hoping that they'll be happy with this video and get lots of you guys going to them, and they might give us some to try. So that would be the upside for us. So I'm going to finish this off and put it on, I think, because we've got a bit more wind coming. So as ever, thank you for watching. Do subscribe. See you next time.